Greetings and welcome to the Volpara Health Technologies Conference. It is now my pleasure to introduce your host, Dr. Ralph Highnam, CEO of Volpara Health Technologies. Thank you, Mr. Highnam. You may begin.
Cool. Thank you and welcome everyone. I'm going to tell you a little piece today about our story, the company Volpara Health Technologies. We are listed obviously on the ASX under the code VHT. Just as some background, I did my PhD at the University of Oxford in the 1990s on breast imaging. So this has been a 30-year journey for me, working out how to apply AI and other techniques to breast images and mammograms in particular in order to improve the early detection of breast cancer and therefore help save families from breast cancer. With that, I'll just go through the necessary disclaimers. Cool. Let me just give you an overview. Today I do plan to talk for 10-15 minutes and then take questions. Okay. So we are, Volpara then was born from that technology at the University of Oxford in the 1990s. We tried to commercialize it from Oxford in the 1990s, but the clinical world was not ready. So we went into brain imaging in 2001. We were very successful at that, and we sold the company to CTI and then Siemens, at which point I moved to New Zealand, which is where this company is based, albeit we are listed on the ASX. We are a software as a service company. We use AI then to improve the early detection of breast cancer. We do it in two ways, by providing clinical decision support tools and practice management tools. And I'll show you some examples of those in a minute. As a company, we are 10 years old at this point, or 11 years old. We've grown obviously from being a very small start in Wellington in New Zealand all the way through now to being a company with $19 million of annual recurring revenue. We have a footprint in the US of just over 27% of all women that get screened access at least one of our products. We have negligible churn, increasing ARPU, which is always important as a SaaS company, and good gross margins. The technology team is based in R&D team, and finance and admin is all based in Wellington. But the sales and marketing team for our biggest market, which is the US, is based out of Seattle and San Francisco, and I'll touch on that again in a minute. We do operate in a very big market. 500,000 plus women a year die from breast cancer. It's becoming higher and higher death rates in Asia in particular as diets and lifestyles change. Breast cancer screening is the best way of detecting things early and saving lives. And each year, around 40 million women a year in the US get screened. Each of those women gets reimbursed around $150, $180. So that just shows you some of the money that is spent in this area. So our mission and my mission for the last 30 years, improve breast cancer detection, but to do so cost effectively. Now, we'll come back to some of the aspects of COVID a bit later, but there are various things I'll mention here. Breast cancer screening, it did stop for a while when everyone went into lockdown. It is now back up and running. People recognize, although it's not essential, it is critical. And the last thing you want is to start to get thousands of late-stage breast cancers coming through because you stopped screening. Because we're based in Wellington, we've always been very, very used to working from home and being resilient at core competency. The business model we apply, it's SaaS, but it's actually annual subscription, so it's year paid up front. So again, a very resilient business model in these times as screening has stopped. And yeah, lastly, we've got a very strong team, not just in New Zealand, but in the US as well. Last point on this slide, which I think is important, we have a very strong balance sheet, just over 65 million New Zealand dollars, which is somewhere around 45 million US at the moment. We raised in March as COVID started to come in, and we did so for two reasons. One was to strengthen the balance book even further, but two, to be ready for any opportunities that came along. if it was the right opportunity at the right price. And again, we can return to that a bit later. Okay, the slide you should see on screen now shows our growth year on year. We listed in 2016 on the ASX. All our records are obviously available since that point on the ASX. Annual recurring revenue's been making great leaps and bounds year on year. We do expect growth again this year, although we're not forecasting what that's going to be due to some uncertainty around COVID. Equally then, that percentage of women that we're covering in the US is growing. And in the top left, you'll see one of our products sits in the cloud. That product receives lots of images, and we do now have one of the largest databases of images in the world, which is incredibly useful for product development. Look, let's just take a step back then. Breast cancer screening using X-rays does save lives. A recent study showed a 40% reduction in mortality due to breast cancer screening. If you look down here on the right-hand side where my mouse is, hopefully, you'll see a couple of images. These are top-down views of the breast. They're called craniocaudal views. The image on the right is white. That white tissue is glandular tissue. Glandular tissue is where cancers form. So if you're age 60 and these are your images, then the woman on the right has got much more glandular tissue. She has a much higher chance of breast cancer developing. And if it does develop, and that's what the white star is meant to simulate, if it does develop, then it's much harder to see on that white background as well. So our first product we launched in 2012 or so was a tool to help radiologists measure automatically and objectively breast density. Okay, the slide on your screen now shows a typical ideal Volpara breast cancer screening clinic. This clinic will be doing high quality work. The images will be very good, the radiation doses will be safe, and the breast compression being applied to the breast. When the X-ray is done, which happens right at the start there, hopefully you can see my mouse, again is being done at the most comfortable level possible. So let's just walk through this. A woman walks in the door. Her breast is compressed between two plates. Images are taken. Our product called Volpara Live pops up. This works on any X-ray machine, and it says those images are high quality. The woman can go home, or we say that image is not high quality. Please retake it whilst the woman is here. Okay. At this point, then, the images are high quality. They flow to the radiologist over on the right-hand side, whose job it is to look at those images and detect breast cancer. Her first job in the US is to estimate breast density, and that's the amount of white tissue. So Volpara Density, which has been one of our long-term products, pops up and says, in this case, this lady is a D. You want to pay special attention to this woman. She's at high risk of developing cancer. We also provide other tools such as Volpara Risk, which is a lifetime risk score. And if that score is high, then again the radiologist knows the woman is high risk, but also the radiologist will know that this woman might actually qualify as well for a reimbursed breast MRI or even ultrasound as well. Critical thing here is we have all these AI tools in that sit up there to help the radiologist make this decision based on very high quality images. They all run on top of our platform. So we have a patient tracking system, which you see down the left, called Aspen. Yeah, all these AI systems hang off that system, or hang off that platform, and feed results in and out. So I'm sure many of you are aware there's a huge amount of interest in AI, especially in radiology, but many of these lack the ability to integrate into the workflow or into these patient tracking systems. We have the benefit then of having AI tools, which is our core competency, along with actually having our own in-house patient tracking system. Recently, we linked up as well with Ambry Genetics, and again, this is where the platform comes in. And now at certain Volpara sites, The patient letter that comes out at the end might actually say as well, you actually qualify for genetics testing. Why don't you go and talk to Ambry about this? So again, the key there is the smooth flow of patients and data through the system, right the way through from that first entry to the patient letter at the end. We sell as a software as a service, but in reality it's more like an annual subscription model, which has proven to be very resilient as COVID has come in. Most sites say to us they fully expect to get back up and running, or most of them are back up and running now, but they also fully expect to catch up on the patients they missed for that period where the US was in lockdown over the next 9 months. We believe we can get up towards $10 of ARPU in time with the range of products that we sell, and they are listed down there on the right. We launched this integrated platform and the full suite of products in 1st of December last year. So really we're just starting to see some of the first deals around this come through now. And as you'll see at the bottom, in Q1 we had, which for us was end June, our ARPU, a price per woman, was around just over $1. But the deals we're signing in Q1 actually range between nearer $2 and over $4, depending on product suite and number of women. So again, on slide 9, you should be able to see on screen now, this is our footprint across the US. 27% of the market has at least one product. We are obviously focusing a lot on upselling during this period with COVID. We have some outstanding luminary sites like MD Anderson and MSK. We're also looking forward to October, where the FDA is expected to come out with legislation to say that all women across the US after breast cancer screening should be told their breast density, which of course is one of our key competencies where we help radiologists judge and inform women about breast density. We are very active though also outside the US. We were born global. We are focusing now a lot on Australia and New Zealand where we're getting great traction. But also we have 38 other countries around the world using our software, and a couple of examples of that. Yesterday we had our first paying customer come in from Morocco via one of our partners, GE, and we had our first paying customer in Ireland as well. Many of the programs outside the US are big population-based screening programs. They don't change unless there's randomized controlled trials. I'm very happy to say that in December 2019, a randomized controlled trial called DENT came out in the Netherlands. That's been running for 10 years using our software, and it showed a dramatic decrease in interval cancers, which are the nasty breast cancers, in women where you did the x-rays, you ran Volpara density, and then you did MRI on those women at highest risk. They were fantastic results, and they've really led to a lot of interest now around the world. Okay, I'm just going to run through this and I'm going to open up the floor for questions. In March, April time, we recognised the world has changed with COVID, but we also fully knew that breast cancer screening is a critical service. I mean, as I said at the start, 500,000-600,000 women a year die from breast cancer. 140,000 plus of those are in the US. So you cannot risk getting more late-stage breast cancers by delaying screening. However, we have focused a lot more now onto the US, Australia and New Zealand, albeit we continue to support Europe and Asia as things come up. We continue to innovate as a company. We are investing more and more into R&D. We have a great pipeline of products, and we have a huge set of ideas that are coming through, and I'll touch on that again in a second. We are fortunate to have these annual subscription SaaS contracts. So Q1 to end of June, we had a record cash receipts, for example, despite COVID, which was great to see, and we've had low churn. So we've got a very resilient business model, and obviously we're going to be focusing on that. Number 4 then, we're doing a lot of work on this at the moment. We are traditionally it's been about trade shows for us to find leads and then on-site visits to talk to people. We have trained and honed the US team in particular now to be digital specialists. And I am very happy to actually say that yesterday we actually announced to the market that we have brought on a new CEO of our US subsidiary, Catherine Singsong. She is based in San Francisco. She is a digital marketing specialist. She spent many years working with Steve Jobs, and her influence on us from day one has been amazing, but also in her training, her retraining of our sales team to work in this digital environment. And you're going to see lots of very exciting initiatives come out of us now with Catherine leading this team. I should also add, Catherine is a breast cancer survivor. So she has a fantastic marketing background, real key insights into sales processes, but she fully understands breast cancer and the world we operate in. Our last point at the bottom then, again, we raised money early during COVID to strengthen that balance, but also to be ready for any opportunities that come up, such as any M&A possibilities from companies that might be struggling around cash. Okay, look, speaking there for 17 minutes. There is one question which I'm just going to pop up, but please do ask questions. I think there's a chat box somewhere for you to do that. There's a question here around breast cancer in men. Around 1% of all breast cancers are in men. If you've been reading some of the news recently, you'll have noticed Beyonce, the pop star in the US, her dad was recently diagnosed with breast cancer. Our software is not geared towards men at the moment, but it's certainly something we are doing. And the reason we can do it at the moment, whereas we couldn't do it before, is because we have so many images now flowing into the cloud. We actually have enough data to make sure our software works well on men compared to women. Second question here was, what about lung cancer? So, I've talked a lot about breast cancer. That is our focus. However, our patient tracking system does work for lung, just as it does for breast. And we do cover around 8 or 9% of the lung cancer screening market. We are continuing to invest into that area, particularly because we see lung cancer screening increasing in terms of participation over the next few years, but also we are seeking to transform our lung cancer patient tracking system to a lung disease tracking system, because what is happening now is patients are going in to be tested for pneumonia. They are ending up having imaging done, and those images are finding lung cancer and other things which need to be tracked over time. So we are rapidly changing that system, and later this year we'll be announcing a release of a new software to move it much more from just lung cancer into lung disease management. So there certainly is an opportunity there, but again, as a company, we are pretty focused on breast at the moment. That was the end of the questions. I'll just give another minute. If anyone wants to ask another question, please feel free to pop that up there. Otherwise, do feel free to email me afterwards or use the SNN system to drop me a message, and we will do our best to respond to you after a wee while. I will add, we just yesterday we did an interview with Catherine Singsong, our new commercial lead in the US. That will be on the ASX later today. It's a 30-minute video, and it really shows the depth of knowledge and experience that we're now bringing in to help us in this digital world. Okay, look, if there's no questions, thank you for attending. Again, drop me email or message, and we'll do our best to respond. Thank you for your attention to our journey. It's been an incredible journey for me over the last 30 years. And it's a real pleasure every day to tell people about how we're helping millions of women each year in the US and around the world get early detection of breast cancer. Thank you.
This concludes today's conference. You may disconnect at this time. Thank you for your participation.